Regional Child Protection Office, helping protect our children all across ISKCON. So Radha Dasi is also very knowledgeable on Shastra, so get to hear a little bit from Radha Dasi here tonight. Hare Krishna.
Don't make me use the mom voice, okay? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunti Bihari welcome everybody. Is there anybody here for the first time? Welcome. Welcome. Anybody on this side? Okay. Well, I'm really glad that you're here. I'm really grateful that you're here. Mataji, thank you. It's nice to have my friends here, and it's nice to have my new friends here too. So I'd like to start just by reading a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. These are Krishna's words, so it's always nice to hear the transcendental sounds of the Lord. And then I'll talk a little bit about gratitude. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So this is from chapter 10, verse 10. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenam mamupayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. And I'm just going to read one paragraph from Srila Prabhupada's purport or commentary. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master and may be attached to a spiritual organization, but if he is still not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instructions so that he may ultimately come to Krishna without difficulty. The qualification is that a person always engage himself in Krishna consciousness and with love and devotion render all kinds of services. He should perform some work for Krishna, and that work should be with love. If a devotee is not intelligent enough to make progress on the path of self-realization, but is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately to attain him. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyanan Gyanan Shalakaya Chakshurun Militantena Tasmai Shri Gurudeva Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So if you're not familiar with our practices, I'll just explain that we just chanted a prayer to the spiritual master who opens our eyes with knowledge. We offered our respectful obeisances unto all the devotees. We chanted for Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And if you don't know who they are, you have a wonderful discovery ahead of you. And then we asked the Lord to engage us in devotional service. So one of the qualities of spiritual persons is gratitude. And while gratitude is not mentioned in the list of the 25 qualities of a devotee directly, it is actually one of the qualities of a devotee. In fact, it is one of the qualities of the Lord himself. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a long list of the Lord's qualities in chapter 16, and the 14th on that list is knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has these qualities, and they are inherent in him. He cannot be separated from it. So one of these qualities is knowledge. And Srila Prabhupada explains that one of the subcategories of knowledge is gratitude. Because if we have knowledge, we are going to be grateful. And one of the reasons why I like to focus on gratitude is because it's an actual practice that we can do, which is always useful. And also because it tells us where our consciousness is. If we can act in gratitude, then we're making progress. When I am feeling like completely ungrateful and no one appreciates me, and that's usually those two go together, then I know that I need to work on my own spiritual consciousness. So to begin with, what does gratitude mean? Anybody want to volunteer? Yes.
Awareness.
Okay, to be aware, you have to be aware of what's going on in order to be grateful. Anybody want to go a little farther? Daksha. Thankful. Okay, so the dictionary says that gratitude is feeling thankful. But I found, in looking at different dictionaries, I found one that I think really expresses the quality that Krishna has, and that is a readiness to show appreciation for or to return kindness. A readiness to do something, to show appreciation, to return kindness. And that's important because spiritual life is about relationships. Ultimately, we're seeking to have a relationship with the Supreme Person. So relationships require activity. When we're young, and I know this was very true for me when I was young, I thought relationships were about feelings, right? You know, I feel like I like you, so I want to be your friend. I feel like I don't like you, so please go away. You know, and what happens, well, at least what happened for me, is I got married, you know, and all these, excuse me to my husband, but I know he experienced the same thing, is you have all these wonderful feelings, but they come and go. Even when you love somebody, sometimes they just get on your last nerve, right? You know, so if we're just talking about feeling, everything's going to be very shallow. And we tend, at least I tend to do that with God, because you know, I'm conditioned to kind of have a distant, impersonal approach to the Lord. But what Vaishnava teachings explain for us is that actually our relationship with the Lord is meant to be dynamic. It involves doing, it involves acting. So meditate on that quality, that we're in a relationship with somebody and we want to be ready. We want to be ready to show appreciation for what we're getting. And as I started out by saying, Krishna has this quality of gratitude. In one of the purports in this same section of the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada writes, "Only fools are ungrateful to their benefactors. The Lord, however, does not require benefit from anyone besides himself because he is full in himself. He still feels himself benefited by the unalloyed services of his devotees. The Lord feels grateful to his devotees for such unsophisticated, unconditional service and tries to reciprocate it by rendering service, although the devotee has no such desire in his heart." So only fools are ungrateful to their benefactors. You know, one of the first things that we teach small children is when they receive something, what do you say? What do you say? Thank you, very good. You know, it's just a basic point of etiquette that we teach. And sometimes we can become a little proud of just that basic reciprocation. You know, the Lord sends so much to me and I tithe 10% to my temple. You know, I'm such a wonderful servant of the Lord, you know. Basically, I'm at the level of the little kid who's just learned how to say thank you. You know, thank you. So we can go much farther. We can go much deeper. Srila Prabhupada also reminds us that Krishna is the supreme friend, the Suridam Sarvabhutanam, the supreme friend of all the living entities. And as such, he's very grateful. If you give a little service to Krishna sincerely, Krishna will never forget you. So how many people do we know in our lives that if we just do a little something for them, they're going to remember us, even for the rest of one lifetime? You know, that's a very rare thing, you know. But the Lord wants to have a relationship with us so much that even the smallest reciprocation, he's very happy, just like the parents are with the child. You know, if the child spontaneously says thank you without being reminded, oh, what a good boy, we're very happy. And Krishna, in the same way, if we can reciprocate just a little bit, he remembers that forever. And there are a few pastimes that show the depth of Krishna's gratitude. One is the story of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad is a devotee. A brief summary. The story is much longer and really worth hearing. But he's a devotee of the Lord whose father is a great demon and tries to kill him in so many different ways. And Prahlad never wavers through all kinds of tortures. He's the Lord's devotee, firm faith in the Lord, and he's protected by the Lord's holy name. And after the Lord appears in the form of half lion, half mad Lord Nrsingadev, he asks Prahlad, you've served me so nicely, you've been so loyal and so faithful to me, I'd like to give you a boon. Because the Lord wants to reciprocate. He's been given this depth of love that surpasses any kind of love that we normally experience in this world. And he wants to reciprocate. And Prahlad says, no, I don't need anything. I just want to serve you. As long as I can serve you, I have no needs. But the Lord insists. He insists that I want to reciprocate with you. So that, again, it's that dynamic relationship. Just like when you love somebody. You don't want to just take from them. You want to give, right? If your beloved says, no, don't give me any gifts, just let me give you gifts, you feel unsatisfied, right? And the Lord also wants to have this deep reciprocation with us if we will allow him to. But not only does the Lord want to reciprocate with those who serve him to the ultimate, surrender to him to the ultimate degree, his gratitude is for any service that he receives. And we see that in the pastime of Putana, right? When Krishna was a tiny baby, the great king Kamsa knew that there had been born a child who was destined to kill Kamsa. So Kamsa, not being able to figure out where this child was, came up with the bright idea of let's just kill all the children, right? So he sent many demons out into the world. To kill children. And one of them was the witch Putana, who disguised herself as a very beautiful, regal, elegant, wonderful woman, and came to Yashoda's house to see the new baby. And she was so beautiful that Yashoda and the village women thought she was a demigoddess. They thought, someone's come from the heavenly planets to see Krishna. But she actually planned to kill him, and she had put poison on her breasts. So she went to breastfeed him, and thinking he would drink the poison and he would die. Being Krishna, he had his own plan. So he sucked her life out along with the milk. But because she had offered her service in the form of being a mother, offering her breast to him, he awarded her liberation. Which was, he accepted that service, even though it was mixed with a desire to kill him. He accepted the service and rewarded that. Now, how many of us can do that, right? Somebody comes at you with ill intent and inadvertently benefits you. Do you feel like you should reward them? So gratitude goes a lot farther than we normally understand it. And that's the depth of Krishna's gratitude. So if we do a little something for Krishna, not only is he not going to forget it, but he's going to accept the best that we're offering and kind of overlook the worst. We ourselves in the material world, we're conditioned by the material energy. So things we offer aren't pure. Our hearts are not pure. We offer through the spiritual master because we aren't pure enough to approach Krishna directly. But Krishna will accept the service and forgive the impurity. So having said all that, I've come to the conclusion that I should strive to be grateful. I should strive to have this quality of gratitude. And that made me think about what is it that gets in my way, aside from just the fact that I'm a fallen conditioned soul and I think I'm the center of everything. That's the basic thing that gets in my way. But in a more practical sense, what gets in my way? And there are two mental attitudes I find in myself that you may also experience. One is I take for granted that certain things are mine. Okay? I don't wake up and feel grateful that my eyes opened and I can see. Right? They're my eyes. Of course they opened. I don't feel grateful that I have a hand that will do things for me. It's my hand, right? But if I stop and think, if something happens to these eyes, if something happens to this hand, can I replace them? No. I didn't create them. I can't replace them. My body, my life, my intelligence, all of these things came from Krishna, right? All of these things are gifts to me. And even if you don't think, okay, well, not sure about this Krishna guy, I don't know how, how he gave them to you, where was he, But we have to acknowledge they're gifts from somebody, I didn't make them, I was given them, okay? So nothing is really mine. Everything that comes to me is a gift, right? And it's hard for me to remember that. That leads to the second mental attitude that gets in my way, and that's just this idea that I earned it. I did it, If money comes my way, well, it's because I worked hard, right? If people are, kind to me, well, it's because I was nice to them, right? I did it. I earned it. And it's especially problematic, is the word I'll use, in terms of spiritual life, because I start thinking that I am progressing in spiritual life to the extent that I am because I am practicing so nicely, right? And ultimately, it's important to remember that spiritual consciousness, spiritual life is a gift, right? It says specifically in the Shastras, and Prabhupada talks about it in the teachings of Lord Caitanya, that devotional service, bhakti, this ability to connect with the Lord in a loving relationship, is independent. Knowledge and renunciation are important for preparing ourselves to acquire this gift. But knowledge and renunciation alone are not sufficient. There's a missing ingredient that we need before we can get bhakti, before we can get real devotional service. What is that missing quality? Anybody have a guess? Mercy. That's it. Mercy. All right. Grace, you might call it. For us, we see that mercy maybe most clearly in the devotees, the more advanced spiritual practitioners who share their realizations with us and engage us in service. That's a very obvious place where we can see this mercy coming and we can say thank you. But even aside from that, whatever knowledge we have, whatever intelligence we have, Krishna supplied it. The verse we started with from the Gita, Krishna says, if you want to come to me, I will supply the knowledge and intelligence that you need. So when I get very proud of, I read that Shastra and I memorized the whole thing and I really understood it and I had so many great realizations when I was doing it, boy, I'm really making advancement, right? I have to remember, no, I went through the activity, I prepared my heart, I hope I prepared my heart to receive these realizations, but Krishna sent them. The Lord sent them. I didn't have a realization. So if we can think like that, we can cultivate gratitude more easily. The other thing that gets in my way when I'm trying to be grateful is the fact that sometimes I don't feel like I should have to be grateful for certain things, right? When I had teenagers was a good time to think, I really don't want to be grateful for the way these kids are acting right now. Why should I be grateful for this? So we think certain things are bad. They're curses, they're difficulties, obstacles. Why should we be grateful for this? And real gratitude based on real knowledge means appreciating everything that comes. Because if we really understand what's happening in our spiritual lives, we'll understand that all of those difficulties are either the result of our past karma, which the Lord has mercifully mitigated because we are trying to make spiritual advancement, or I should say, because it's not always separate, or they are opportunities for us to learn something, or ways that the Lord is actually protecting us. And I will give you an example. In the Mahabharata, which is the story of a dysfunctional family and a great political coup. There's two families who are fighting over the throne, and one family is surrendered to Krishna, and the other family does not want to follow Krishna's will. So the Pandavas, the followers of Krishna, they're orphans, and their widowed mother is caring for them. Their uncle is like the regent on the throne, the Kauravas, their uncle and their cousins. So at a certain point, the oldest cousin on the Kaurava side, the one who's actually his father's regent but not the king, he starts wondering, wait a minute, how come I can't be the king? I'm just as cool as Yuddhistir. I'm just as smart. I'm better looking. I'm just as good at fighting. You know, why should he? My father's actually running the kingdom, so why should he get to be the king? I want to be the king. And he starts coming up with ways of getting rid of the Pandavas. Very, very common story in any royal family, right? You know, you're in line for the throne, people start wanting to get rid of you. So one of the things that they do is Yuddhisthira has 5 brothers, one of whom is Bhima, who's very, very strong. So you know, if you want to get rid of Yuddhisthira, you probably have to get rid of Bhima first, because if he's protecting his brother, you don't have a lot of chance. Bhima loved to eat. Not only was he expert at fighting, but he was expert at eating. So the Kauravas made a wonderful feast full of poison. Bhima ate all of this poisoned food, started to pass out, and actually fell face first into the river, where poisonous snakes bit him. Okay, like, it's not enough, Lord, that you have my relatives are poisoning me, but now you're sending poisonous snakes. Thank you very much, right? But the poison in the snakes actually counteracted the poison in the food. Okay? So many times we find ourselves in a situation where, you know, it's like, okay, I see the poisonous snakes, you know, I don't know, Lord, why you're having them bite me, but I trust that, you know, they are counteracting some poison. So these difficulties that we encounter are counteracting the poison in, sorry, at least for me, the poison in my heart. You know, when I'm feeling like I'm, you know, all that and a bag of chips, sometimes my false ego gets knocked down a peg or two. You know, that's actually the Lord's mercy, right? When I'm getting distracted from spiritual life, I can get a slap in the face that helps me come back. You know, these are things that we can actually be grateful for. All right. When I want to meditate on gratitude, I think about Srila Prabhupada, the founder of our movement. We have so much reason to be grateful to him. So much reason. He, at the age of, well, he turned 70 on the journey. When he left India, he was 69. When he got to the U.S., he was 70. But at this age, he left the spiritual holy place where he was perfectly situated and came to the United States with, you know, 70 rupees, 7 rupees, I can't remember. It didn't matter because you couldn't even spend rupees in the U.S. at that time. But he came, he made this effort, suffering 2 heart attacks on the way over. He came with no connections, no facility, you know, not even really a place to stay, because his spiritual master had asked him to bring this knowledge of Krishna to the Western world. So he did that for us. And, you know, the journey almost finished him, and it didn't stop there. You know, he was living in the ghetto, surrounded by drunks, stepping over, you know, drunken people who had made a mess in the street, you know, to get into his apartment, struggling with different scenarios. He had a roommate who went crazy and tried to attack him. His things were stolen. And then, when he did, because he just kept on going, he actually started attracting some followers. And he would do things like, you know, when he initiated his first disciples, he prepared the yajna, he performed the yajna, he initiated them, he had prepared the feast, served the feast, they took the feast, and then they left, leaving him, because they didn't know the etiquette, they didn't know. And they didn't apparently even know, like, basic mundane etiquette either, because they just left the whole thing to him. But that was Prabhupada. You know, he was in such a service mood that he tolerated this, knowing that as they progressed, you know, they would learn. And so many times he expressed gratitude to his disciples. Like, you know, we think we should be so grateful to Srila Prabhupada, but Prabhupada was grateful for these disciples. He frequently would express that he wanted to serve his spiritual master. He wanted to spread this knowledge as his spiritual master required, and he was so grateful. You disciples, you're helping me do this. He wrote to one of his god brothers in 1967, he said, "My disciples here are a godsend. I cannot express my gratitude for their sincere love for me, and I can only pray that Sri Krishna may bless them with advanced Krishna consciousness." And he expressed this gratitude after getting out of the hospital, where after he had a stroke, right, as a result of all the austerity he was undergoing in order to preach. So in other words, he came here to save us. He underwent so many difficulties to save us, and then he said, "Thank you for your service." Right? So that's the inspiration that I look to when I'm trying to cultivate gratitude. So there are some little things I'll just share with you that are kind of like practical things that you could do that I will share with you. You don't have to do them. But ways of cultivating gratitude. One of them is just to look for an opportunity to show gratitude every day. To do something for someone, to express your gratitude to them. We can pray. We can be thankful in our prayers. We can offer prayers of thanks to the Lord. Now, in our tradition, we often reference the prayers of Queen Kunti, Yuddhistir's mother. Because she prayed to Lord Krishna, she said, "When you send me difficulties, I feel close to you, I remember you, so please send me more difficulties." Okay? And so sometimes devotees pray in this way, "Please, Lord, send me more difficulties so that I can remember you." That's not recommended unless you're very advanced to pray in this way. Okay? But what we can do is pray for prayers of thanks for our current difficulties. And one thing that I have found is if I start thinking, okay, I'm gonna pray to the Lord, a prayer of thanks for this difficulty, it makes me start thinking about the difficulty in a different way. All right? Because I start trying to think, okay, well, what do I have to be grateful for in this situation? What can I genuinely tell the Lord thank you for in this situation? And not only does that help me cultivate this spiritual quality, but it actually makes my life easier, in a very practical way. They say, your attitude determines your altitude, and that's true. So these are things that we can add to our practice to help. And finally, I don't know how to put this. My final thought is that we owe a huge debt of gratitude to Srila Prabhupada, because without Srila Prabhupada, we wouldn't have the opportunity to worship Krishna. There would be no temples in the West. And we have a debt of gratitude to Lord Caitanya, the incarnation of God who appeared 500 years ago in India, to open up this practice to everyone. Because prior to that, you had to be a Brahmin, you had to be a man, you had to have certain qualifications in order to approach the Lord. But Lord Caitanya came and he said, this is for everyone. Everyone can be engaged in chanting the Lord's names, in approaching the Lord, and everyone can have the opportunity to have this dynamic relationship of love with the Lord. So the two things, or the thing that both of these personalities, Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that they both wanted, was they wanted this knowledge, this love of Godhead spread everywhere. Every town and village, all over the world, every person to have the opportunity to have this kind of relationship with God. So if we're really feeling grateful, or if we just want to try to cultivate that gratitude, the one thing we can definitely always know that we're showing our gratitude by doing, that was a very involved sentence, we can show our gratitude at any time by helping to spread their mission. by sharing God consciousness, spiritual life with others. So if we can do that, not only do we benefit ourselves, we benefit others, but we are showing our gratitude for the gifts that we've received. So thank you very much for listening. Are there any questions or comments or corrections, additions? Chitura Prabhu. Any reverse in life that comes to us, we see as a gift.
And there's so many nice phrases in there. Everyone's like also read that to get more ideas about that.
Okay, so the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj was another soul who surrendered to the Lord, and the Lord insisted on giving him a benediction even after he said he didn't want it. Anyone else? All right, thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.